Wednesday evening, the San Antonio Spurs began their trade deadline with the trade of Jakob Poeltl, according to Adrian Wojnarowski and Shams Charania, at about 10:51 p.m. Mountain Time. On Wednesday evening, the Woj and Shams both broke the news that the Spurs are going to move Jakob Poeltl. So let's go ahead and jump into this trade. What's the latest? And I do want to note a timestamp that I am recording this at 11:53 p.m. Mountain Time, because with all the trades that are going down, I mean, Kevin Durant just got traded to the Phoenix Suns. I just feel like I want to put a timestamp on when I'm recording this, because there could be more moves made with San Antonio. And so again, if you're watching this, I do want you to note the time that I am recording this. All right. So what does the deal look like? So the Spurs ended up getting something that they wanted for Poeltl. Now they were asking for 2 first-round picks. Now they're not going to get 2 first-round picks, but they're at least going to get 1 first-round pick, and that's a good deal, considering they could lose Poeltl for nothing because he is an unrestricted free agent this upcoming summer. They're going to end up getting a first-round pick for him. So let's look at the deal first of all. So the Spurs are agreeing to a deal with the Raptors, according to Woj and Shams, for Khem Birch, and also a protected 2024 first-round pick. We don't know the protections just yet on that pick. And then also 2 future second-round picks. And below, I know it's kind of small to see, but you see that Toronto has a lot of picks available. They have multiple first-round picks in that left column, and then in the right column, you see all the second-round picks that they have. So Toronto definitely has a bunch of draft picks available. And so yes, Jakob is going into Toronto, and this is just he was obviously drafted by the Raptors, and he played with them to start his career. Then he was traded to San Antonio, and then he just finished the night in Toronto, where the Spurs lost by they lost on Wednesday to the Raptors earlier in the evening. But yes, Jakob will be going to Toronto, and so now let's look at where what this deal means for the Spurs, both financially, and let's ask some questions about what other moves do they have in store. So on the left side here, this long column, I have the Spurs' current salary book, what it looks like. And again, I just want to show you a quick preview of what this looks like, because it could change dramatically on Thursday if the Spurs continue to make moves. So with Khem Birch, he does have $6.7 million guaranteed for this season. And then next season, he's also got a guaranteed contract of $6.9 million. So he is on a 2-year deal, both this season and next season. So right now, by moving Poeltl's $9 million salary and adding Khem Birch's $6 million salary, the Spurs have actually added more cap space. They now have $24.9 million in cap space available going into Thursday's trade deadline. So again, they continue to be one of those teams that can probably take on contracts from other teams for draft assets, like they did recently with the Dwayne Dedmon deal previously earlier in this week. Now, so again, $24.9 million right now as of where they stand at 11:55 p.m. Mountain Time Wednesday evening. Now, if they were to keep Birch, what would this mean for their cap sheet next offseason? In the summer, there's potential for the Spurs to have up to $57.7 million in cap space. Again, only if they were to keep Khem Birch and let all their free agents walk, and then keep the players on the roster that are expected to be on the roster. And this is even considering if they were to land the #1 pick, Victor Wembanyama. So again, that's kind of where they're set right now. They have $24.9 million in cap space right now going into Thursday's deadline, and $57.7 million next offseason is potentially what they could have. So the big questions here are, are the Spurs going to look to move Khem Birch? They could still do this on Thursday, as long as if they don't aggregate him with other players. They could still try to move him. Actually, since they took him into cap space, I think they can aggregate him with other players if they needed to on a deal, when I was reading the CBA. So again, that's something to keep an eye on. Do the Spurs try to move Birch somewhere else? Because again, he has next year's $6.9 million guaranteed for next year, so he's going to be on their books. Based on his production and what he's done this season, I don't think they're gonna find any takers for him. He's only played in 20 games with Toronto. He really wasn't part of the rotation this year. So again, I don't expect the Spurs to find a trade partner for him. And then the next question, though, is because he's a veteran player, he's 30 years old, Khem Birch. Do the Spurs intend to keep him on the roster, maybe to be like a locker room presence, be a player for depth there in the front court, or do they intend to buy out his contract? And again, if they buy out his contract, they would have to pay for this season, but also next offseason. So again, it'd still be a cap hit on their books for next season. So again, when you talk about a contract buyout, it's not so easy for a player who has 2 years left on his deal. But again, we'll see what happens with Birch. So far, there's been no reporting yet if they intend to keep him or maybe possibly waive him. And then the reason why I say that there's probably going to be more deals is because this is what Adrian Wojnarowski put on Twitter right after the Spurs made this deal with Jakob Poeltl to send him to Toronto. Woj says, the Spurs are running it up on young players and draft capital now, with 13 first-round picks secured through 2029, and the expectation that they'll gather even more now and the 3 p.m. Eastern time trade deadline later today. So Woj is on the probably on the East Coast, because it's already probably past midnight over there wherever he's at. And so yes, it's already Thursday wherever he was tweeting that from. So again, this is something to watch. Is The Spurs have a lot of money there. They have $24.9 million to continue to make moves. So the key players to watch now going into the deadline on Thursday are Josh Richardson. You know, he's in a very similar situation where Poeltl was, where he's going to be an unrestricted free agent. So if the Spurs can get a draft asset for him, they're probably going to try to move him to get some sort of draft asset for him. If not, he could walk away in free agency. Doug McDermott, they may not be as urgent to move him because he has 2 years left on his deal, so he's also under contract for next season. So maybe Doug, unless there's a deal they don't want to turn down, then I could see them end up keeping Doug. We'll see what happens. And then also Dedmon, they haven't quite waived him because they're trying to see if they can still try to trade him to another team. If not, if he doesn't get traded tomorrow on Thursday, then they probably do intend to just waive him, buy out his contract. And so those are some players to watch. And also, like we said, Khem Birch, maybe they're trying to find a deal for him. So again, that was some breaking news on Wednesday evening, and we know that Thursday is going to be a wild day with all these the trade rumors. But then also, if the Spurs do participate in more trades, which we anticipate they will do, just because they need to try to close that gap because they're so far underneath the salary floor now that they have $24.9 million open in cap space. For Project Spurs, I am Paul Garcia.